Hello and welcome to Marathon Recon, a mile-by-mile preview of the 2018 LA Marathon. I'm Martise Moore, the Run Faster coach, and today I have the pleasure of running with Paula. Hi. Paula is a nutrition expert and she's also a veteran of the LA Marathon, so we're going to get all kind of juicy details out of her on our run. Okay, so we're doing mile 9 today, so let's get started. Okay, so mile 9, it's pretty flat right here, and we're still kind of in the Silver Lake area, headed towards Hollywood. So you can start seeing like the Hollywood sign at this point. So do you remember running this part of the race?
I don't.
You don't?
Okay. I don't really remember. I remember there being good crowds everywhere.
Okay, when did you run, when was the last time you ran LA Marathon?
It was last year.
Okay, and why did you decide to do that?
Well, so we moved here in July 2016, and I thought it would be a good way to see the city, and I've always wanted to do the LA Marathon. We moved from Houston, Texas, and so I decided to do it, and it was a great way to see a lot of LA and then Santa Monica. So I loved it.
Cool. And how do you compare it to like other marathons? I know you've done like other races before, like what's your thoughts?
Well, fortunately for me, last year it got cooler as we ran, because we ran towards Santa Monica, and then also just I thought the crowd was great. Lots of people cheering. It was loud, and it was hillier than I'm used to in Houston in some of the Texas races, but I actually found that to be an advantage because, of course, when going down I could speed up and it didn't feel as hard, but as it cooled off, that felt really good too. So I really enjoyed it. It's my favorite course, actually.
Oh, it is? Okay,
yeah.
Cool. So how are you training for it?
So I have a coach.
Okay.
So I'm doing about 5 runs a week. One to 2 long runs. Mostly my long runs are on Saturday or Sunday. And I'm actually, doing some at marathon pace, but he actually has me going a bit slower.
Sure. And
I found that it's helped me, so I'm feeling really good.
Good. Do you have like a specific goal for this race?
Yeah, so LA Marathon last year was my first Boston qualifying marathon.
Oh, nice.
Yes. Well, unfortunately, a lot of women my age are fast too. So many qualified with a faster time. Okay. So I didn't get in for Boston this year, so I'm trying to do it even faster.
Okay. So how many minutes do you think you have to actually shave off?
So I'm 3 minutes under. 3 minutes under the qualifying time. So I'd like to do another 1 or 2 minutes faster. Okay, yeah, so you see guys, even if you get the qualifying time, it doesn't guarantee you a Boston qualifying. And she was 3 minutes under, so for those of you trying to qualify, you got to keep that in mind, that you may want to shoot for at least 5 minutes under the qualifying time to make sure you get in. Yes, that's my goal. Okay. A guarantee in. All right, so we're going to be rooting for you. Thank you. Make sure you do that. So, you are like a nutrition expert, so we want to use you. Okay, so training for a marathon, nutrition definitely comes into play. Yeah. So, can you give us some advice on, especially for like the beginners? Yeah. So, what they should be doing now that they're training, and during the race. Yeah. So I think one of the biggest piece of advice would be train. Just like you're training on your runs, train with your nutrition as well. So practice your nutrition. Don't experiment the last minute, and now that you have long runs in on your schedule, then make sure that you're taking with you either the hydration you plan to use if you're not going to use what's on the course. So on the course is Gatorade Endurance and water. And then so if you don't want to do that, then make sure you figure out a way to carry it with you or have it on hand. And then any goos, gels, chews, fruit, whatever you're going to use, practice it during your runs. And make sure you take water with those goos and practice that too. We're getting ready to turn onto Hollywood Boulevard at this point. So that's exciting because we're going to be running on Hollywood for a long time. And you'll be able to see the sign to your right for most of the race. So, like, how often should people be, refueling? So today's pretty hot. I'd say if it's like today, so I think it's like 70, in the 70s right now. I would say every water station or every other at least grab some sports drink or water, or whatever it is that you plan to use. Because if you're sweating a lot, you're losing a lot of electrolytes and fluids, so you need to make sure you stay hydrated. As far as when, how often, the goal is to get 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour. To give you an idea of what that is, it could be about 1 to 2 goos or 3 to 6 chews per hour. So you don't have to do it all at once.
Right.
If you could hold on to it for a little bit, you could do little by little. You don't have to just chug it if you don't like doing that. So, but the goal is to get 30 to 60 grams per hour. And hydration is going to be very individual. So what I recommend people do is on your next long run, or if you have a 60-minute run, weigh yourself before and after to get an idea of how much fluid you lose. For every pound you lose, that's 16 ounces of fluid or sweat loss. And if you're drinking as well during that hour, and you still lose several pounds, then it gives you an idea, you lost that much fluid plus whatever you drank, you still lost that much.
So, great. So they call that like the sweat test, right?
Sweat rate test.
And
I say 60 minutes, so you know that's about how much you lost in that hour. Hopefully, if it cools down by March, your sweat rate might be less. But it's always good to kind of every long run you have, whatever day of the week that is for you, maybe test it out and see where you're at. And it can give you an idea about how much you need to drink during your long runs.
Oh, we're standing there a really long time.
Here, let me do this.
And
I should. Oh, here we go.
Oh, here we go. All right. Luckily, you don't have to worry about lights on the actual race. So we're crossing right now.
Yeah, that's nice. You'll be all safe.
We're gonna just cross up there. Are we on that side? So that's really great advice, because obviously it's a really, really important part. Like, it's actually very strategic that you need to be very strategic. You can't just go out there and be like, oh, when I'm hungry, I'll eat. So what are some of the signs that you're missing some of the nutrients that you need to complete a marathon?
So if you feel faint, nauseous, headache, that's another thing. So we talked about dehydration, but it could also be a possibility that you're overhydrating. If you're stopping at every single water stop and drinking the whole cup of water or Gatorade, it is actually possible to overhydrate. So headaches, feeling nauseous, bloated, all of those could be signs of overhydration or dehydration. If you are throwing up, then it could be a sign that you have overhydrated.
Wow, I wouldn't have thought that. I would have thought like, oh, maybe I ate something bad.
Well, that could be a possibility too. And one thing we didn't mention, like you said, don't try anything new or just experiment that day. At the expo, if it's your first time, it's going to be very exciting because there's so many free samples. So try not to don't experiment on race day, but save that for your next training.
Yeah, that's great advice actually, because we all like the free stuff. Right? So we're like, oh, I got this, I'm just going to eat that. And
even if you have a sensitive stomach, maybe don't even try not necessarily the things that you're going to do during the race, but even maybe save any of the bars or special drinks for another day too. Don't do anything new or drastically different with your meals the day before either.
So let's say I start cramping on mile 18, which is very common. So what should I do? Like, should I first try to stretch, or should I realize that it's a nutrition issue?
So if it gets to that point, if it's a nutrition issue, it is possible. I don't want to say it's too late, but just like you said, maybe slow down, try to relax a little bit, stretch out if you need to. It could be related to the intensity of the run and all the adrenaline, everything going on. But if you could get in something with electrolytes and fluids and carbohydrates, that would be good. But don't try to chug or do large amounts, because then you don't want to have any GI upset either.
So can you tell us what GI upset translates to in layman's terms?
Any gas or bloating, or you have to run to the porta can really quick, anything like that. It could be a sign of it just maybe too much carbs at one time that you're not used to, or with the running and everything. and the intensity could be related to that. So I think the best advice is just try to slow down. Don't quit. If you can still go, keep going. There's nothing wrong with slowing down. So I would say just try to slow down, because that intensity can make it worse.
Yeah, so actually the porta potty situation is a real thing. So like, what's the line situation in that? Like, what should you be expecting? So don't like wait till the last minute, because there's lines to these porta potties. So like in general, kind of,
do you mean at the beginning of the race?
Well, no, I think during. You know, I think obviously people should get to the race early, take care of their business. But during the race, you know, you may have to go at some point. So
I think any signs, if you feel something's not right, then go ahead. Go ahead and try to see if you can get into one. It doesn't hurt to try.
Okay, now we're finally on Hollywood Boulevard. Golly, that was like the longest lights ever.
Yeah, we won't have to worry about that. Now I can see the Hollywood sign.
So it's a really good view of the Hollywood sign right now. When we get past these trees, we'll show you. But anyway, you won't have to worry about lights.
Yeah.
You're right. So actually, that's, like you said, it's a great way to see the city without traffic.
Yeah.
That's like a huge highlight, because traffic is, you know, the only bad thing about LA.
Yeah, really.
Everything else is wonderful. Okay, so you've given us some really great advice, because some people discount this part, and it's so important, because maybe when you were training, nothing bad happened to you. And so if something were different to happen to you on the race, like let's say it's hotter than usual, you know, than when you were training, because you always trained, you know, when it was cool out or something like that, and then people don't know what to do and they panic. You know, so that's why it's so important for you to recognize the signs and how to remedy them. So like, what would you say some good things people should carry on them from a nutrition standpoint, in case, you know, they start having issues?
Oh, well, that's a good point. So actually, if you are using a certain type of nutrition, I would say it doesn't hurt to carry a little extra, 1 or 2 extra goo packets. If you use salt, then of course you could carry that. You don't need to carry it if you're not used to using it. The medical tents or medic stations are out there for a reason, so you know, there's something you really need like that. If it gets that bad, they'll be there for you.
Okay.
But
what about salt?
So salt and electrolytes are going to be in the Gatorade Endurance. And if you're using sports drinks, it's going to be in there. If you're using your own, all the goos and gels, all that has it already in there. So if you've been training with it, I would stick to that. Whatever you're used to using. If you feel any of those severe symptoms, then of course, again, I would go to the medic station. But if there's any...
But they're not like at every mile, so that's why you need to make sure you have your own stuff.
And alert people. I mean, from my experience, all the marathon runners are so nice. You let someone know something's not right, of course. But and otherwise, if you know, we talked about stomach upset, cramps, slow down and try to relax. And then see if you can speed up again, or go take a pit stop or porta potty stop. But yeah, I wouldn't really suggest changing it up too much.
Yeah, because what are your thoughts on all that free food that's out there on the on the course? Like my last guest, she says, I call it the buffet, like the LA Marathon buffet. Everybody's like handing you food.
Well, you know, and some points, like if you're just so tired, if it's late into it, you're so tired of having sweet stuff, and maybe there's pretzels or something. A little bit's fine. You know, having something a little different is fine for most people. But if you know you have a really sensitive stomach, then I would wait for after you're done to indulge in whatever it is that looked good on the course, and grab it when you get home or on your way home.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So here's a good shot of the Hollywood sign. Let's see if we can get it. Maybe,
Griffith
sort of.
Observatory?
Yeah, at Griffith Observatory. Anyway, just trust us, it's there. Okay. So, okay, yeah, like, name some foods that, like, on the course or less likely to upset your stomach. So like you said, pretzels.
Maybe potato chips, the plain potato chips, gummy bears.
Okay.
Of course, for people that are used to training with something.
So these are all the things that, if there's people who are offering it to you, they might be okay.
Yeah. And of course, in small amounts. Like, if you're not used to them, then just little by little.
So no In-N-Out burgers.
Oh, no.
That kind of thing, like, maybe not.
Now, I know there's some people who could have donuts and go for runs.
Yeah.
But for most of us, you know, during a marathon, if you really want it to be an enjoyable experience, I would stick to what you know, what you're familiar with.
Right.
And what you know you can tolerate or handle while you're running.
Right.
Because that's so different than if you're just sitting down.
Cool. Well, we're coming up on the Barnesdale Arts Park, which is pretty nice. It has really great views of the Hollywood sign and Griffith Observatory. It's over here. You can see. Cool, but it's like still pretty flat for the most part on this mile. So you should be feeling really good. And okay, well, thanks for giving us all that nutrition advice, because it's really great, and I can't emphasize enough how important that is to your strategy, guys. Because, you know, 5K, 10K, you can get through it with none of that jazz.
Oh yeah.
But like the marathon, all of that comes into play.
Yes, and one thing, I guess, if you know you're going to be out there longer, let's say longer than 4 to 5 hours, the more nutrition you're probably going to need. Maybe not large amounts at one time, but throughout the course, especially as it warms up throughout the day.
Right. Okay, so since this is your second marathon, is there anything that LA marathon, is there anything that you would do differently either with your training or actual race day so you can make sure you get that 5 minutes under?
Yes, my coach and my husband tell me all the time, just don't bust out the gates or the start line, you know, make sure I hold back a little bit, because I tend to, when you're so excited and everyone starts, I, you know, go out too fast. So it would be just to hold back, because you still have so many more miles to go. So
and that's perfect advice to end on, because that is what everybody does, because the energy is so high, and obviously you feel good at mile 1. You should.
And even when there's so many people cheering, and you feel so good, and maybe you're going downhill, you want to go faster, but it's still early in the race. I have to remember to hold back.
Right. Well, I want to thank you for joining us today and giving us all your wonderful expert advice.
Thank you.
If anybody has any other nutrition advice, we're going to put Paula's link up with the video so you can get some advice from her. So, and also, if you have any other questions about mile 9 or any other aspect of the LA Marathon, please go to GreenRunnerLA.com. And until next time, keep up your nutrition and keep running, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.